So tell me about. I know they're screenshots.
Yeah, screen grabs of
So this is video played on
it's
a
that.
computer.
It's what you're seeing there.
Okay.
Sort of. That's sort of a sample of how it looks on a board. Trying to extract image from DVD. It's copyrighted. So essentially, what what happens is that when they put copyright encryption on DVDs, there's two sets of frames that sort of go back and forth. And one is what's called an I frame, which is the image information, and the other one is an R frame, which is reference. And so if we were looking at this space with a camera on it, pretty much nothing is changing, right? So the compression says nothing's changing, so just keep writing the same thing over and over again because we don't need to see any difference. But as soon as somebody enters that space, there's a pixel change, right? And wherever there's difference in there, it says this is different, so this needs to change. But the other stuff still stays the same. So the reference frame says, okay, we're still there, we're still there, we're still there, and the image frame says this changes, this changes, this changes. So what happens with this is that the reference image, the reference frame gets pulled away. So it's constantly nice to meet you. Yeah. So the image information is constantly shifting because it has no place to live. It has no reference frame. So that's sort of how compression works. And I learned about this sort of post-facto because I'm basically just playing around with this stuff and is this working? So I teach video, and I'm always looking for clips to show stuff. So I'm always trying to grab stuff and showing the whole DVD and trying to find stuff.
Trying to find it, right.
So I went online and found some open source video extraction programs, and so I'm sort of trying to pirate stuff, and it doesn't work, and this is what started to happen. So I started capitalizing on it. So these 5 prints are from one film.
Okay.
So these 1, 2, 3. So for there's 10 films, and I have 5 images per film. And then these are sort of random. These are geometric, and these are sort of figurative. They're sort of distortions of figures and stuff. So the idea was to call the project intellectual property, and then use the titles of the films as sort of.
Oh, okay.
So, intellectual property gone with the wind, intellectual property stolen, and so for those films, I used 5 images to sort of, from like 60 frames that I grabbed from each of these films, to sort of look at these in relation to formal things, like, do these 5 things represent sort of an arc in the film, stylistically, or maybe color, or pattern, or something. So there's sort of like formal decisions based on what the things look like, and that's really all they are. There's just a lot. There's just so many images. So it's like, okay, this group looks reasonable.
So how many? I mean, there must be a multitude of images.
Well, yeah, if you think of videos 30 frames a second, and they're 90-minute films. So basically, what I do is I put the DVD in and try to extract whatever I can from it, whatever the program allows me to extract. That's what I have to work with, and then I start working with things.
And so, what makes you decide which one to?
Most of it's just formal, just aesthetic stuff. It's just like, oh, this looks sort of interesting, and then I start looking at them in relation to each other, and thinking, oh, that we can see, maybe we see progression, or maybe we can see relationships between shapes, colors, palettes might be similar. So that's really subjective. I'm really jazzed by the process. Because what's nice about it is you can't get the same image twice.
Oh, okay.
Because if you pause the video and you say, okay, I want that frame like 2 frames ago, and you try to go back, the encryption is still in process, and so when you try to change it, it starts to blur and distort that, so you can't get what you just saw. So it's really a sort of kind of performative thing. Really grabbing, stopping, and doing the screen grabs. So it's fun. It's sort of like a performance aspect to it.
How long have you been doing this?
I just did this last summer. This was like a summer's worth of work. It was the first time I ever Shona. It was in the faculty course.
Are you continuing this, or you don't do this?
No, I think these are done.
These are not.
Yeah. I'm actually working on now.
Okay.
I'm actually working on
Again.
trying to figure out how to write computer code that will actually allow me to do this in real time. So that what I want to do is do an installation which will have a live webcam that will look at motion, viewers' motion in the space, and that will affect the video that's being projected in the space, so that as you move, it starts to make these distortions based on your position in the space. So the viewer activates the distortion, yeah. So, and the idea was to do a project where I would be doing like a live satellite feed of like the shock jock cable idiots that yell at you. And so if you're actually like quiet and you're not moving in the space, they just rant and scream. But as soon as you move, it starts to distort their phase and garbles their speech. So it's basically like saying to you, you know, you need to do something about this. Because if you don't do anything about this, it's just going to go on forever.
Don't be passive, right.
So it's that kind of thing. But it's also this idea of like, how do you intervene in this sort of streaming information, you know, and sort of facilitate that. So I'm working with a guy who's writing code. We're working on stuff. So these are done, but that's the sort of next step.